Okay, let's go ahead and move on to a fun story. President Trump is endorsing Dr. Oz in the Pennsylvania Senate race. Let's put this up there on the screen. I've got to read you this full statement. It is truly something.
Classic.
Okay. Endorsement of Dr. Oz from President Donald Trump. This is all about winning elections in order to stop the radical left maniacs from destroying our country. The great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has a tremendous opportunity to save America by electing the brilliant and well-known Dr. Mehmet Oz for the United States Senate. I have known Dr. Oz for many years. He has lived through with us through the screen, has always made popular, respected, and smart. He even said I was in extraordinary health, which made me like him even more. Although he also said I should lose a couple of pounds. He is a graduate of Harvard University. He earned a joint MD MBA from the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine and Wharton School of Finance. He has authored 350 books. He continues, Dr. Oz is pro-life, strong on crime, the border, the election. He also passionately believes in high-quality education, protecting parent involvement. Perhaps more importantly, I believe Dr. Mehmet Oz will be the one to win the general election. Women in particular are drawn to Dr. Oz for his advice and counsel. I have seen this many times over the years.
That was my favorite.
They know him, believe in him, trust him. Likewise, he will do well in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, where other candidates will not be accepted. He knows his job is to serve every single Pennsylvanian. He is smart, tough, and will never let you down. Therefore, he has my complete and total endorsement. Good luck, Dr. Oz. Our country needs you. So,
low-key, I think he might be a little bit right about the women thing.
Oh, no, he's 100% right.
Because, I mean, this is like an Oprah-aligned figure. This is like daytime TV. So I do think he might be
The day Oz
right
announced, you can go and check the record. I said I think he's going to win, specifically because of his appeal to people who are non-political, celebrity.
Yeah, he's got normie appeal.
Exactly.
I mean, and that's a hard thing. Right. That's a hard thing to deal with.
But, so this has caused full-scale meltdown in the MAGA universe. And it's especially hilarious to me, given all of the characters who are involved. So the other rival against Dr. Oz was David McCormick. He actually was leading Oz in the polls up to this. Let's put this up there on the screen. Now, David McCormick, up until, I don't know, 6 months ago, was the CEO and head of the largest hedge fund in the world, Bridgewater Capital, which was run by, globalist-in-chief and China apologist Ray Dalio. He himself is reportedly worth at least up to $1 billion. At the very least, he's got hundreds of millions in his pockets. This guy is a Wall Street ghoul through and through, a huge proponent of ESG, of investing in China. The worst of globalism incarnate is David McCormick. But, and this is why MAGA is melting down, his wife happens to be Dina Powell. Now, you guys might not know who that is, but she was on the National Security Council in the Trump administration up until 2017 while she was on a leave of absence from Goldman Sachs, of where she currently works
She's back
right
at
now.
Goldman, by
She's
the
back
way.
at Goldman. Don't worry. She's doing just fine. And at the time, Trump loved her. She's an Egyptian Coptic Christian. She did a lot of the ISIS stuff. She made a lot of friends in the White House. So a lot of her former friends in the White House are now working for David McCormick, including Stephen Miller, Hope Hicks, a huge number of people from the Trump campaign and the Trump White House. Pays big bucks. And so they have conferred upon David McCormick the MAGA status. So they feel very stabbed in the back or stabbed in the front by Trump endorsing Dr. Oz. What I think is hilarious about this whole thing is everybody's like, oh, Dr. Oz is a huge liberal because he interviewed Michelle Obama once on his show, or Dr. Oz was pro-choice before he was pro-life. Yeah, so was Trump, okay? Like, yeah,
right.
Save your fake crocodile tears. And the alternative, Krystal, is that they are claiming that the true MAGA warrior is a freaking hedge fund executive who is, I could not conjure a more Davos-like ghoulish figure than David McCormick.
Just to give you a sense of how cynical he is, in that piece that we just had up in the New York Times, they say McCormick's married to Dina Powell, Goldman Sachs.
Right.
Couple has been warning their friends that McCormick plans to play up Trump-like views on the campaign trail, what they described as simply the cost of running in a Republican primary right now, according to two business associates of his from Wall Street who asked not to be named discussing private conversations. So they're going around to their Wall Street polite society people and basically being like, we don't really mean any of these stuff, but you know these rubes in the Republican primary, like we got to play up all the sort of xenophobia and all of, so just disregard what he's saying.
It gets worse, Krystal, which is that Dina Powell and Dina Powell and her husband in their meeting with Trump, this is according to people who were inside the room. You take it for what you will, it's from the New York Times. They say that they pulled out a picture of Oz wearing a turban where he was in Turkey and a funeral procession wearing traditional Islamic garb. And they're like, this guy can't win in Pennsylvania. So they're willing to try and use Oz's Muslim identity. I mean, look, Dr. Oz is not like a practicing Muslim. He's a secular Muslim. Even then,
not only is it's actually worse than being racist, it just shows complete contempt for the electorate, that you think that you could just like put that picture up there and that a bunch of, you know, Pennsylvania rednecks would be like, oh, hell no.
Right, you're like, oh, I'm not voting for this guy. Exactly. I'm so glad you said that.
I mean, here's another one that I found pretty interesting about David McCormick. In a 2018 op-ed in the Washington Post, he backed Democratic congressional candidate Amy McGrath, who was like literally the worst candidate who ever ran for office in Kentucky and ultimately lost and was backed big time by the Democratic establishment over Charles Booker, who's a much more compelling and dynamic candidate. So anyway, this is the new makeover. In an interview with the Fox News host Mark Levin, McCormick said he was running against, quote, the weakness and wokeness that you see across the country. I wonder how long he workshopped that. He noted he'd been driving a Ford F-150 pickup across Pennsylvania to meet voters, and though his father was actually a university president, he made sure to mention the family farm, which he now owns. These people are so freaking fake. It is incredible. I mean, Trump also, I don't know why anyone was surprised that he endorsed like the TV dude that is, you know, has some similarities to him, frankly. I don't know why anyone
He's also known him for 30 years.
Ultimately shocked by that. But yeah, I mean, this Republican primary, so Trump had actually endorsed a different candidate. Remember this, Sean Parnell?
Right. He signed
out. Ultimately, his wife had, in court filings it came out that he was accused of domestic violence. He drops out of the race. That was the original Trump endorsement. And so that left the race really pretty wide open. The last polling I saw had a massive number of voters who were undecided and who said that, you know, 61% of those voters said they're more likely to vote for a candidate if Trump ultimately endorses them. So while we've been giving you some instances where the Trump endorsement hasn't really worked out, Georgia being sort of the key one here, this is one where since it was already close, I would think that this helps push Oz to the front of the Republican primary.
Right, but at the same time, Oz is not necessarily doing well in head-to-head polls against John Fetterman.
Yeah, which is interesting. So Fetterman has, you know, his lieutenant governor has a big profile in the state and a big lead right now on the Democratic side. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. This is from the Philadelphia Inquirer. They say John Fetterman has a big lead in the Pennsylvania Senate primary on the Democratic side. Will attacks matter with 6 weeks to go? He is facing, the big contender against him is this sort of like corporatist blue dog Democrat, Conor Lamb. He's a member of Congress right now. And Lamb went up, a super PAC affiliated with Conor Lamb, went up with this big ad trashing Fetterman, saying he's like a socialist and he won't be able to win in the fall. Same old playbook that they run against anyone who's even like moderately to the left whatsoever. But at this point, Fetterman has such a lead in the primary. The last poll that I saw had him at 33% in the Democratic primary, followed by Conor Lamb with 10%. So a big gap there. There are still a lot of undecided voters, but if you dig into those undecided voters, very few of them are actually leaning towards Lamb. So it looks like it's Fetterman's race to lose. The DC establishment is actually lining up behind this guy and trying to tell Conor Lamb to chill out so they don't damage him for the fall. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. DC Dems get out of frontrunner Fetterman's way in Pennsylvania. In his previous runs, they were sort of oppositional towards him because he does come from more of the Bernie wing of the party, backs Medicare for all and those sorts of things. But now because he has such a formidable lead, party leaders on Tuesday, they say, heard private concerns about a pro-Lamb super PAC after the group slammed Fetterman as a self-described Democratic socialist, a claim that led to the ad being pulled from one TV station. That's how dishonest it was. Senator Warren raised the ad during a Democratic caucus meeting on Tuesday. A majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Democratic Senator electoral campaign committee chair, Gary Peters, said they were, quote, addressing the issue. And Elizabeth Warren also said publicly, I saw the PAC ad that is currently running in Pennsylvania. It is wrong. It is disgusting. And if Connor Lamb wants to stand up as a Democrat, then he needs to disavow that ad today. So an unusual instance of the Democratic establishment backing someone who is at least purportedly on the left, although I saw a bunch of headlines this morning about the way that he's like, you know, prostrating himself to make sure he's like, I'm super pro-Israel and I'm not going to rock the boat. So he's trying to shore up that support. Listen, in terms of the prospects in the fall, I think it's going to be very difficult for a Democrat to win in Pennsylvania this year. I mean, it's a true swing state. Biden barely won it, as we all know, is very close. And the landscape is just really difficult. So even though right now the polls might say in a head-to-head matchup, Fetterman versus Oz, that he's got an edge, I think it's pretty tough sledding. And it pains me to say that because, you know, some of what Fetterman's done and some of his policy positions, et cetera, I really like and really appreciate. But I just think the landscape doesn't really matter that much about these two individual candidates. It's just a very tough landscape for Democrats.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's a terrible landscape. Fetterman, he's probably a powerful candidate. He has obviously won statewide. At the same time, the guy doesn't seem to make a sentence without the words LGBTQ. So good luck, especially in this environment. I think that against Oz, especially somebody Oz is not a right-wing culture warrior. He's somebody who can really lean into the COVID talking points of terms of, there was a great Wall Street Journal piece, maybe we'll cover it tomorrow, called The Long COVID Effect on Politics, which is basically suburban people who were fed up around school closures and around restrictions and are remembering it even now, months later. Obviously, inflation is going to be a top one as well. Put it all together, it's a terrible national environment. But the MAGA fight part of this is just the most funny one. And don't worry, I'm sure David McCormick is going to burn a ton of his millions and billions of dollars still trying to win this primary. So it is not over.
Yeah, well, listen, like I said, I think Fetterman is, as far as Democratic candidates go, I think it's a pretty strong candidate. I mean, I think that's what the polling shows. People in Pennsylvania like him. I think he projects a lot of strength. I think, you know, he was a mayor of a small town that was decimated by globalization and by NAFTA. And so, you know, he has a lot of credibility. And frankly, just his persona is, you know, really quite compelling and quite unusual. You know, this is a guy who shows up to every event in like
basketball shorts.
Yeah, and like shorts, and really comes across as like that everyman. I just don't know that candidates matter that much. When you have a national landscape, I hate to say it, but when you have a national landscape that is as bad for Democrats as it is right now, the particular characteristics or policy positions of either Dr. Oz or John Fetterman are probably going to matter a lot less than the fact that Joe Biden's approval rating really super sucks and people are paying a lot of money at the gas pump. I think that's the reality of the situation.
Yeah, we covered it. One of the segments we did on Rising, which I'll always remember, was the decline in candidate quality from overall election analysis since 2010. It just doesn't matter that much.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's almost all national conditions. Not great. Hey guys, we're going to be totally upfront with you. This is the most perilous time that we have ever operated in.
It is so difficult just to try to sort through the news, but even more importantly, to bring you accurate information as this wave of lockdown and censorship spreads across the nation.
Yeah, look, if you can become a premium subscriber today at breakingpoints.com, you're going to help us build out a vibrant, independent media ecosystem, which is free of mainstream pressure. We can't tell you how important that is at a time like this.
Yep, that's right. Go to breakingpoints.com to subscribe. We love you guys and we appreciate you so much.